Hey guys, it's Mountain Walk, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Ponza. Yep, it's a deck, another pre-modern deck, and it's got a lot of stone rains in it. Um, yeah, so let's just friggin' get into it, and we'll talk a little bit about destroying lands. All right, um, Ponza, in case you guys don't know, uh, is an old sort of mono red, typically mono red land destruction style deck, kind of like the outgrowth, just the evolution of like the Sly sort of style. So like cheap dudes and then like wastelands and stone rains and pillages and stuff like that. And there's actually a bunch of different kinds, right? Because back in the day, unlike today, right? Uh, they actually printed a bunch of different stone rains in different colors, right? So you had stone rains in red, of course, as well as in green, and then sometimes there were red-green decks. Of course, the deck we're talking about today is red-green. But yeah, the name Ponza actually comes from like I think it's like a deep fried pizza, right? That they serve in Italy, something like that. Um, I'm not, I don't really remember why it was called that or whatever, but I love pizza and I love destroying land, so can't really complain there. Yeah, so we just want to blow up some lands, and yeah, what we really want to do is focus on curving out. So that's why what's really nice with the green versions, green or green red, is that you can use birds and elves and stuff to go nuts with that. And so what we really want to do is just create a really consistent deck that's like one drop into Stone Rain, into Stone Rain, into Stone Rain, and then play like a dude to kill them eventually, right? So we really want to focus on curving out. So that's priority number one. Priority number one. We want to keep them off balance with just a punch of Stone Rains and just let them choke on all their cards. So yeah, very cool stuff. All right, so here we go. We got nothing too weird here. Again, all the Stone Rain clones, a little bit of removal and stuff like Firebolt. Firebolt and Call the Herd are obviously pretty good just because they give you a sort of card advantage. Obviously Firebolt will kill a thing, then you can flash back to kill a thing, or deal 2 damage, of course, to them. Call the Herd is just a good card against control decks, and same thing with Sylvan Library, where it's a lot harder to punish you for taking a bunch of hits off Sylvan Library, because if they don't have any any lands or mana available, they can't really put any pressure on your life total. Um, we'll talk a little bit about the sideboard later. And then the only maybe weird thing, like I said, about the mana base would be the inclusion of Mishra's Factory. Of course, Factory is included instead of like Treetop Village because again we want to curve out, and Treetop on turn 1 or 2 or 3 doesn't really help us. Obviously, it's a little bit better, on turn 4 or whatever because it's bigger and has trample and stuff, but Factory, of course, is just much better. And of course, this might actually be better as, say, um, like Wasteland or something, depending on like how, if we have just enough threats already. But it's basically a free roll. It's a good threat. It's a good card. Another good card against control decks. So I like Factory. I like Factory. So let's really get into the nitty gritty of this. All right. Probably the first thing that jumps out at you is my good friend Argothian Worm. This is one of the cards that actually really made me want to play Magic in general. I was just like, wow, I love the art, and I love like it was so big and huge, and like its drawback wasn't really a drawback because I'm like, oh yeah, I can just destroy a bunch of their lands, and then I'll have like this huge worm, and they won't have anything. But again, it's good here. It's a good top end. Obviously, synergy with the deck. You're fine with either modes either way, and it ends the game in a hurry, very very quickly. Yeah. So Argothian Worm, very sweet card. Just spiked very recently, of course, due to a lot of the reserve list buyout. I think it's like 15, $20 or something, but this card's very very good in this deck. So. Um, Oh well, oh well. Hopefully you got a bunch of your reserve list stuff when I told you to get it. But that's okay, no biggie. All right, so now we have Firebolt. Again, this card just a good card to deal damage, and then you can flash back to deal more damage. Same thing with Call of the Herd. It's just a spell that just gives you a little bit more resiliency versus spot removal, or sweepers. And of course, like I said, Sylvan Library, such a good card. I mean, wow. What more can you say? This deck loves it because definitely wants to keep the cards coming and like paying like 8 life to get 2 more Stone Rains in your hand, like in the mid to late game is just awesome. This is really good. I could even see playing like 2 more like Windswept, or like a Bloodstained Mire or something, just to give you a little bit more shuffle effects, which is really good with Sylvan Library. So that's pretty sweet. So I would play 3 of them. It's very good against control decks, and just really any deck that we have locked down, right? Keeps the threats coming, keeps the damage coming, keeps the Stone Rains coming. So yeah, very good card here. Very good card here. All right, now we're just talking a little bit about the stuff in the sideboard. Um, First and foremost, Bottle Gnomes. This card's great against, well, aggressive decks, and of course primarily Sly, things like that. Grim Lavamancer, Curse Scroll, Arc Lightning. This stuff is really just cards that are supposed to be good against like weenie decks and things like that. Not really sure what the best number of these, but yeah, like Lavamancer, Curse Scroll, very good, just repeatable damage sources. Arc Lightning's good too. I mean, it could be something like uh, Earthquake. Yeah, Earthquake is kind of neat. There could be other stuff too. But yeah, definitely a good card. Maybe Hammer of Bogarden, right? Because a singleton hammer is good, right? It's a good way to well, just have a recurring lightning bolt, I guess. So that's kind of neat. That'd be something to consider. Obviously, Pyroblast, things like that are good. Masticore, again, a good card against aggressive decks and any decks that have trouble removing him. And then of course Dust Bowl is just another. It's like a one of if you want to play it against like control decks, any decks with a lot of main lands, things like that. Any decks heavy on non-basics. So yeah, and of course Grizzly Fate, again, one of my favorite cards that I just want to put everywhere. This card's very good against control decks. Again, late game, you can just play it, get like a bunch of bears, ooh, excuse me, and then you can flash it back and get a bunch more bears. This card is sweet. I love Grizzly Fate. Like I said, I put it in everything, so this isn't that unusual for me. So yeah. But yeah, pretty obvious, pretty easy. I mean, again, turn 1 Dork, turn 2 Stone Rain, turn 3 Stone Rain, turn 4 Stone Rain. That's all we really want to do, you know. So yeah, I mean, obviously in this format, just playing a bunch of Stone Rains is really good against a lot of decks, right? And of course, there's even more stuff too. I forgot to mention stuff like Null Rod, 1 or 2 Null Rods in the sideboard. Again, very good against the artifact-based decks. Obviously, there is a big issue with this deck if like it doesn't curve out, and has problems with that. Then like if your opponent's able to do their game plan, Stone Rains aren't very good if they can develop their board. But yeah, that's okay because we have the London Mulligan, which is actually really good for setting up like good starts. So don't be afraid to mull down to 6 or even 5. Especially if you have something like a Sylvan Library where you can like refuel. But yeah, I really want to go Dork into Stone Rain into Stone Rain into Stone Rain and so on. Um, yeah, of course, yeah. Also in the sideboard, stuff like Kabu Chameleon's okay, right? Because this is obviously it sucks versus like Wrath or Plow, but if you can overload those with a bunch of different dudes, and of course it just being immune to counter magic, and I guess it's even okay against like the white decks if you see Cop Green or something like that. So Cabo Chameleon, pretty good there. Yeah, and of course, obviously, FTK, Tranquility, just all sorts of different stuff, depending on what you expect to see. And yeah, this deck is basically a mid-range deck. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, because you really want to play your 3 and 4 mana spells and stuff like that. Or I should say it's at least like the speed of a mid-range deck. And I would say that like one of the nice things about this deck is just that the format itself is sort of ripe for exploiting these kind of things because like Um, Typically, like any format that's too fast, like we'll say Legacy or something, or Vintage or whatever, like it's just you're not gonna have much luck with a 3 mana sorceries dot deck. You know, obviously these cards are bad versus like Force, Spell Pierce, Daze, things like that. The format's really just too fast for it. So you'd have to rely on things like Port and Wasteland. But obviously, Premodern is a lot slower, right? It's more like a turn 3, turn 4 format, really, where that's like the critical turn, or the fundamental turn of the format, if you're familiar with that phrase. So around turn 3, turn 4 is really when people start getting stuff done, like when combos can start going off, when aggressive decks can kill you, and when like when control decks can like wipe the board, drop a humility, have full counter magic up, this kind of stuff. So, but yeah, definitely very good against a lot of decks. And this deck, of course, is very good on the play. It's a little worse on the draw, but obviously on the play, right? Like you can just keep your opponent on one or no lands. Pretty strong, pretty strong. So. But yeah, that's about it. I mean, there's not much to say. It's a pretty easy deck to understand. There's not much else going on. All you want to do is just kill stuff. And like obviously a lot of the super aggressive, like say like the mono black decks, um, can be like that can be a problem, right? 'Cause they're pretty fast. They can kill your mana dorks. They can operate off 1 or 2 lands pretty easily, especially if they have Dark Ritual, right? So like Carnophages and Sarcomancies and stuff like that. And then of course they have like any of the Dothy guys, things like that. So that's where you really want to bring in like your Masticores and all your other additional removal cards and things like that. So, but yeah, otherwise pretty easy. Like I said, curve out, play a bunch of Stone Rains, and that's all you gotta do. Real easy, real cool, real good. So yeah, that's basically it for today, guys. I mean, there's not much else to say about this deck. It's very sweet. There's, like I said, it's not super set in stone, but yeah, you really want to play like 16 stone reigns, something like that. And there's, like I said, there's all sorts of different variants you can play. So, yep, there you go. So thanks for stopping by, guys, and have a great day.